In The Spell of the Sensuous, on page 49, David Abram writes, "The body's silent conversation with things." For Merleau-Ponty, all of the creativity and free-ranging mobility that we have come to associate with the human intellect is, in truth, an elaboration or recapitulation of a profound creativity already underway at the most immediate level of sensory perception. The sensing body is not a programmed machine, but an active and open form, continually improvising its relation to things and to the world. The body's actions and engagements are never wholly determinate, since they must ceaselessly adjust themselves to a world and a terrain that is itself constantly shifting. If the body were truly a set of closed or predetermined mechanisms, it could never come into genuine contact with anything outside of itself, could never perceive anything really new, could never be genuinely startled or surprised. All of its experiences and all its responses would already have been anticipated from the beginning, already programmed, as it were, into the machine. But could we even then call them experience? For is not experience, or more precisely perception, the constant thwarting of such closure? Consider a spider weaving its web, for instance, and the assumption still held by many scientists that the behavior of such a diminutive creature is thoroughly programmed in its genes. Certainly, the spider has received a rich genetic inheritance from its parents and its predecessors. Whatever instructions, however, are enfolded within the living genome, they can hardly predict the specifics of the micro-terrain within which the spider may find itself at any particular moment. They could hardly have determined in advance the exact distances between the cave wall and the branch that the spider is now employing as an anchorage point for her current web, or the exact strength of the monsoon rains that make web spinning a bit more difficult on this evening. And so the genome could not explicitly have commanded the order of every flexion and extension of her various limbs as she weaves this web into its place. However complex are the inherited programs, patterns, or predispositions, they must still be adapted to the immediate situation in which the spider finds itself. However determinate one's genetic inheritance, it must still, as it were, be woven into the present, an activity that necessarily involves both a receptivity to the specific shapes and textures of that present, and a spontaneous creativity in adjusting oneself and one's inheritance to those contours. It is this open activity, this dynamic blend of receptivity and creativity, by which every animate organism necessarily orients itself to the world, and orients the world around itself, that we speak of by the term perception. On page 65, Abram writes, "So the recuperation of the incarnate sensorial dimension of experience brings with it a recuperation of the living landscape in which we are corporeally embedded. As we return to our senses, we gradually discover our sensory perceptions to be simply a part of a vast interpenetrating webwork of perceptions and sensations borne by countless other bodies, supported, that is, not just by ourselves, but by icy streams tumbling down granite slopes, by owl wings and lichens, and by the unseen, imperturbable wind. This intertwined web of experience is, of course, the life world, to which Husserl alluded in his final writings. Yet now the life world has been disclosed as a profoundly carnal field, as this very dimension of smells and tastes and chirping rhythms warmed by the sun and shivering with seeds. It is indeed nothing other than the biosphere, the matrix of earthly life in which we ourselves are embedded. Yet this is not the biosphere as it is conceived by an abstract and objectifying science, not that complex assemblage of planetary mechanisms presumably being mapped and measured by our remote sensing satellites. It is rather the biosphere as it is experienced and lived from within by the intelligent body, by the attentive human animal who is entirely a part of the world that he or she experiences. On page 22 he writes, "We are human only in contact and conviviality with what is not human."